Dasymetric maps are kind of like choropleth maps, except they're trying to be more specific about the areas that should be colored and the areas that should not be colored. So they try to account for any sort of additional knowledge that might be out there besides the data that's being used in the original choropleth map, to show how that attribute is distributed in a more precise manner. So the result is they tend to eliminate areas that really shouldn't be on the choropleth map, and those areas no longer get colored in. And what they're trying to do in this way is provide a more accurate picture of how whatever that attribute is that we're looking at is distributed across an area. In this example here, we're looking at two different maps, both based on the same U.S. Census Bureau information. The U.S. Census Bureau is broken down by census tracts. Some of these are quite specific, very small areas. Other areas where there's not many people living might be much larger. And in this case here, this would all be one census tract here. Someone with more of an idea of what the land use is like in this area might realize that the only place people are actually living is in this area here, because maybe this area over here is vacant lots, or it's zoned as industrial or something where people are or should not be living. So if you had some other information like that, you could break out this entire area and say, this is not an area that's has people living in it anyways, so all of that population must be in this area here. In some cases, this might actually change the color of an area, but that just depends on whether or not now that population density applied to a smaller area is going to go up to the next class or the next category here. So for example, this area here would be one example where a lot of these people here are either living in this area here or in this area here, which has now gone up to another class. It's gone to a darker brown because its population density is actually higher. So the one on the left here would be a choropleth map of population density, and the one on the right would be a dasymetric map that's using other information on land use in order to better define where people are living within the census tracts. And this is another example, this time based in the San Francisco area. If we start with these two maps on the right here, this would just basically, once again, be based on census block groups, which is another thing that the U.S. Census Bureau looks. We can aggregate the tracts to blocks and then up to block groups. This shows where people are living, but of course in some of these places like Golden Gate Park, which is kind of this whitish area here, but one that appears green here, people should not be actually living within the park. So we know that should not be included in the population density map. And so once again, this would be the choropleth map on the top. This would be the dasymetric map on the bottom here. And if we look at the dasymetric map for the greater San Francisco area, we can see even better patterns, and a lot of the patterns up in the hills here where there's no residential areas or areas where there are parks or other areas where people are not living, is just represented by a white color, zero population. It's excluded from this dasymetric map.